Hello friends. It has been raining nonstop for the last several days, pretty much a week, and I haven't been able to get out. So today, now that we finally got a little bit of sunshine, we're supposed to have some rain later today, so I wanted to get out and do some weeding and check on some of my vegetables. Well, let me show you what I found. Okay, here are my lime green tomato bushes. They are doing quite well despite all of the water, and I happened to find not one but two ripe tomatoes. Unfortunately, because we have had so much rain, they both have little itty bitty bugs. So unfortunately, I will not be getting these tomatoes. The chickens will. The tomatoes have been doing fairly well considering all of the rain that we have gotten. We had flash flood warnings for 2 days. I do have some spots in the garden that have some standing water. Most of the problem areas are actually in the walkways, which I'm not going to complain about because the beds we did add a couple inches of compost and dug everything up when we tilled, so it did raise the soil level a couple inches in some areas. The garden beds at the bottom of the hill are probably the worst, and for whatever reason this tomato plant seems to be suffering the worst. All the other ones look pretty good except for this one. I don't know why this particular variety. This one is one of the Brandywines. The Brandywines seem to be a little bit particular for me. Oh, I guess that one's kind of wilty looking too. None of the others are wilting, so hopefully it'll dry out and decide to straighten back up. But if not, that's okay. These are my paste tomatoes. They're one row. The other one's on the other side. Oh, look at these. June bugs. They're so annoying. Excuse me while I kill some June bugs. This is another thing that you can see when it rains a lot and you get a lot of water. See these little white protrusions along the stem of this tomato plant? That is roots that are starting to develop. They are developing all along the base of this plant and many others. There's nothing wrong with the plant. It's just an excess of water, and it's how the plant starts to deal with it. This yellow pear has quite dramatic roots that are trying to start. You can see all those starting to, and that's all on the yellow pear. I have it on many other varieties, but some are much more pronounced than others. One of the Romas, you can see where it is starting to draw out those roots at the base of the plant. Alright, this is something I'm super excited about. I put this piece of wood up on the top of the T-post. Sorry about the wind. In hopes that it would be colonized by some leaf cutter bees, and I am super excited to see that there are several spots where there are indeed leaf cutter bees. Leaf cutter bees are actually native to North America, and they are responsible for pollinating a lot of our fruits and vegetables. They even do a more efficient job at pollinating some things than the honeybees do. One of the things that they pollinate more efficiently is alfalfa, and some farmers will actually set up these little bee hotels and kind of help the leafcutter bees so that it increases their yields, since they do a better job at some things than the honeybee. Alright, that's actually something I did not know about either. I did not know that squash can do the same thing. That is very interesting. This is a honey nut squash, and it is rooting at this stem. That is very interesting. Huh. I did not know that. Did you know that? Leave me a comment below. I had no idea. Alright friends, I originally went up to the garden to weed and then got distracted by the leaf cutter bees and the tomatoes and all that other stuff, and then I got distracted by something else altogether. Take a look. I collected all of these Colorado potato beetle larvae. I have one Colorado potato beetle in there. You see it right there with like the yellow stripes and the orangey red head. Yeah, so we are going to go feed these to the chickens. Let's go see how they like them. Alright, here's that pile of little beetle larvae. So let's go see what the chickens think. Chuk, 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 chuk. They're like, this is new. They don't know. Oh, maybe they don't like them. Oh wow, maybe they don't like them. That's all I got. I'm sorry. Ooh, that was my toe, sweetheart. That was my toe. Are the ducks gonna try it? Seriously, look at all the fluffy butts. So funny. This one has fluffed up quite a bit. You don't even like it. What are you chasing away the ducks for? You don't even want it. Don't go after my toes. Nope. You gonna eat them? Looks like they are slowly eating them. I think they just expected the little green caterpillars, but now that a few of them like them, they're like, oh, this isn't bad. Alright. I guess that's it for now. So the next thing that I wanted to show you is this remnants of a leafcutter bee nest. This would be one nest from one bee. It had a couple other pieces to it, but each compartment can be up to, I believe it's 8 inches long, anywhere from 4 to 8 inches long, and it sort of depends on how big the hole is that they choose. Leafcutter bees can choose to lay their eggs inside of things like canes and rotted wood and that sort of thing. They don't usually make a mess, so they're not really a nuisance. The biggest nuisance that people complain about is that they aesthetically ruin the look of things like roses because they take the petals and they cut perfectly circular shapes out of them. And then they use them, they chew them up with saliva or mix them with saliva to make these little tunnels inside of wood and canes and that sort of thing. Inside of each one of these little compartments would be, so this is probably one compartment right where my thumb is, and inside of that would be just a loaf or a clump of pollen and one egg. And each egg would develop on its own over the winter and into an adult and hatch out next spring. This was left over and nothing hatched from this spring, unfortunately. And I started looking, and there's a tiny, you might not even be able to see it in here, but there's a tiny little hole where some sort of ant or parasite or something got into there. Leafcutter bee has a lot of enemies, a lot of parasites that feed on it. So unfortunately, a lot of them don't make it to adulthood. But this is what it looks like. It looks almost like a cigar. The end of it is all wrapped nicely. That would have been the back of the tube. She would have started there and worked her way forward, alternating leaves and pollen and eggs, leaves, pollen, and egg, and each one would have hatched all on its own. Here is just a little clump of pollen that some little insect would have, I think an ant, probably made its way into and ate the little egg and larva that was hatched in there. So this is part of the pollen that the little baby bee larva would have fed on before hatching out. Here's another example. This is the second one. These were all found in the windowsill of our sugar shack. And I left them out and probably, unfortunately, left them at the mercy of whatever insects found them on the shelf, which was probably ants. So unfortunately, they did not hatch out. But this is what they look like, and there'll be several eggs in each little tunnel. Leafcutter bees do not live together in a hive or a colony. They're independent. They might lay their little tunnels next to each other or around the same area, but they don't depend on each other. Each female is responsible for collecting all the leaves and all the pollen for each egg that she lays herself. Here's what like the bottom of one of the insides would look like before the bee would have packed another layer of pollen and an egg. You can almost see the hole right there in the like 5 o'clock position of the circle there. You can actually see the little hole where some sort of insect got in there and ate the little larva, unfortunately the growing larva, and killed it. This is basically the same thing that is inside our little bee house in the garden. And I'm very excited to bring them in the garage so that they're out of the wind and the rain and the snow come wintertime, and then I'll take them back outside in the early spring so that hopefully those little bees will hatch. Alright friends, that's it for today. There was a couple of things that I shared with you in the garden and about those little leafcutter bees. So if you happen to see little C-shape, perfectly clean-edged cutouts on your broad-leafed plants, things like lilacs and Virginia creeper, and even sometimes your vegetables like the leafcutter bee will choose those. There are leafcutter bees that choose to use flowers too, so sometimes if you see them, I saw them last year on my cosmos plant. So if you see those, don't worry, it's completely normal, and it's not just normal, it's a good thing. You want them in your garden because they are wonderful pollinators. They are very efficient pollinators, and they are native to our area. So count yourself lucky if you get your own leafcutter bees in your yard. If you learned something new today, give this video a quick thumbs up and make sure you follow me for my adventures in the future. Thanks so much, friends. Bye-bye for now.